Lia, welcome to #World Food Day.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's lovely to meet you, Lia. And so I'd like to ask you firstly, could you tell us about yourself and your journey?
I'm a writer, an author, and I came really from gardening originally and cooking. I studied horticulture, had a little garden of my own, and then went and studied horticulture, and then went into writing about gardening for magazines and things like that. And then I've eventually kind of gone freelance and started writing books and really got very interested in growing my own food. I had an allotment for several years and wrote a couple of books about allotments and just really, really loved that. And now have a bit of growing space at the end of the garden for growing my own food. We've just picked a massive pumpkin this morning and feeling very pleased with ourselves. So and I write now an annual book called The Almanac, which is partly about growing and gardening, but also about lots of other things about the year. So it's about the sky at night and really about kind of clicking into the seasons and knowing what's going on with the moon phases and all of this sort of stuff. But yeah, lots of growing and recipes and seasonal and celebration foods in there as well.
Wow, Lia, the Almanac, that sounds incredible and I can't wait to read it. So I want to ask you now, why is World Food Day so important to you?
I think anything really that sort of gets people talking about food and about, the situation we are in, food security really has to be a good thing. It's fantastic that that people are coming together to have these sorts of conversations. And I think, I do think that growing food has to be a part of that. And I know that it is as part of your World Food Day conversations, because food security quite often does come back to that, doesn't it? That, if we have the ability to grow our own food, that is a step towards a kind of security. I know that from when I was writing more about allotments, that allotments in particular in this country, in the UK, have always, the numbers of them have expanded dramatically during any crisis. So, World War I, World War II, all of these times of crisis, we suddenly realized that we need to be able to fend for ourselves. And I think, during COVID and all of that time, people really suddenly recognize that need to do a bit of growing for themselves. So, I think it's a wonderful, wonderful thing to be talking about.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the more constructive narrative, information that's inspirational, that engages people in their own personal journey around the issues of food has got to be a good thing, given the some of the incredibly fundamentally important issues in relation to its production. So yeah, I'm all in with you on that thought. So I want to ask you, you're incredibly passionate about community growing and you're an avid gardener, as we just discussed. Why is it important to you? Why is, the sort of the whole gardening and the writing around these issues being so important? And where do you also think someone can start their own sort of growing journey or making changes around food?
I think there's partly that big picture thing of yes, food security. We all need to at least know how to do it or know how hard it is as much as anything. Food growing can be it's hard to fend for yourself and to know, to really appreciate where our food comes from and how that's been grown. But also, if you're talking about community growing, it's this wonderfully sociable thing to do, and social links you into the local community and get you outside, and all of the kind of movements that you're doing when you're gardening, that keeping you really fit and you're eating the good stuff. And I think all of that is really fantastic. And having said it's tricky, I think it's tricky to grow enough to support yourself fully, but it's not actually tricky to grow a bit. And I think that's what I would say if you're starting out. Don't think you have to go all out and you have to grow everything that you're going to eat, but grow some really nice stuff, grow some really tasty things. Grow your own tomatoes, just a wonderful place to start because they are more delicious than you will ever get in the shops. And, just, relatively straightforward. But I would maybe start even with a window box, a little window box if you haven't got much space. And so something like, actually at this time of year, even, you can sow some pea shoots. So get like a box of marrowfat peas, something cheap like that, and fill them up really, really thickly with onto your window box. Cover that with a little bit of soil, and then once they're only about like a couple of inches high, cut them, and they just taste like peas. They're like a really delicious little salad ingredient, and you can do that anywhere. You can, even if you haven't got a windowsill to put them on, you could do that indoors, and it's just a lovely way of just kind of getting yourself going and making that connection between the seed and the food and the dish that's on your plate and the sandwich that goes into your mouth. I think is a really, really lovely thing.
Yeah, that sounds like a great tip. Thank you so much. I mean, I'm a dad, so the idea of doing a little something like that with my daughter and, just incredibly exciting. It was, we had an amazing interview the other day where the person said, if you think oranges and apples come in plastic, shrink wrapped plastic, then of course there's a lot to learn. So, really interesting. I've loved these thoughts that you're sharing. Thank you so much for that. Look, if people would like to find out more about you and your work, right? I mean, tell us a little bit more about Almanac and maybe where we can go to read some of your things would be great. Thank you.
Well, the book that's just come out is the Almanac 2025. So this is next year's Almanac. It's very little, just a little pocket-sized thing, but very kind of densely packed full of beautiful illustrations and lots of information on tides and gardening and all sorts of stuff in there. So that is kind of available all over the place, Waterstones and all of those sorts of places, and lots of independent bookshops have it. If you want to find out about me, I have a Substack, Lia Leendertz. Lia Leendertz is a bit of a tricky one to spell, but I do have a Substack, Lia Leendertz, and I am on Instagram as well, Lia Leendertz there, so you can find me there.
Lia, thank you so much for everything that you've done today, for talking with us and celebrating World Food Day. And I hope that people go out and get a copy of the Almanac to be inspired on their journeys around the issues of food and all sorts of other wonderful things. So thank you so much, Lia.
Well, thank you so much for having me along. It's been really lovely to come along and talk to you, Jeremy.